Each year we literally talk to thousands of investors, man, and the most common thing that people are asking us is, how can I replace my income or get to financial freedom through property in a relatively short period of time? So I thought in today's video we could talk through our 2 properties to financial freedom strategy and the 3 specific steps that people can follow to replace their income over the next 15 years.
Now for me, I'm all about the path of least resistance and how can I get to financial freedom without being too overwhelmed or stressed or having to be extremely active throughout that journey. So if I were to come to you and say that, hey Ben, I want to replace my income of $100,000 per year within the next 15 years, where would I start?
So the first step is what we call step 1, and that is the accumulation phase. Now, this is when we physically go out there and buy the properties that are going to make us financially free in the future. So step 1 for you, bro, for example, if you came to us and you said that you and Taylor are earning $100,000 or $150,000 per year combined, would be to go out there and find that first high quality home.
Yep.
So could be a $600,000 investment in Brisbane that rents for $500 per week.
Okay, great. But I don't want to just go out there and buy any old house. I want to buy a house in a good suburb, relatively close to the city, on a big block of land, in a nice, quiet, family-friendly street. And I also want to avoid any flooding issues or any housing commission. So at $600,000, can that be done?
Absolutely, bro. That's the cool thing about many of Australia's markets at the moment. Outside of Sydney and Melbourne, the rest of Australia is still dirt cheap. And so this strategy works up here in Southeast Queensland really well. So after you've bought that quality home, man, which can absolutely be done up here in Brizzy at the moment, we then go out there and build a granny flat. Now, these granny flats at the moment cost around about $200,000 when you factor in all of the services, driveways, carports, fencing, landscaping, etc. And they're renting for somewhere between about $350 and up to $450 a week, depending on the suburb we buy in.
Now, we don't want those old crappy granny flats in the backyard. You want to really get some nice separation and build like a 6-foot fence, have 2 backyards for both the granny flat and the main dwelling, so we can consistently rent out both of those properties. And the idea would be to rent that $600,000 house out for roughly $500 per week, and then the $200,000 granny flat for around about $400 per week at the moment.
Yep, so effectively you and Tay have gone out there and spent $800,000 and we're getting around about that $900 per week in combined rent. So the next step, once we've gone out there and we've bought that first home and built that first granny flat, is to rinse and repeat. So in this example, we'll go out there and we'll buy another $600,000 home that rents for $500 a week, build a $200K granny flat that rents for another $400 a week. And that honestly completes the end of step 1. So by the end of step 1, you'll be looking at about $1.6 million worth of property and about $90,000 per year in rent from the 2 houses and the 2 granny flats.
So how long would that take to finish? Obviously, as we said, with me and Tay being on about $150,000 combined income.
Yeah, so we've had clients that we've worked with that have literally gone out there and bought the first house 5 or 6 years ago that have yet to build the granny flat or buy the second property. We've had other clients, as you know, that have gone out there and bought the 2 houses straight away and then built the 2 granny flats in the year after. We've had other clients literally buy 2 houses and build 2 granny flats at the same time. So as always, it comes down to what the bank's prepared to lend you, what your personal appetite for risk and debt is, and your financial position as a household.
Okay, cool. And then once we've completed that accumulation phase, whether it takes us 1, 2, 3, 5 years, what do we do once we've got those 4 incomes and the 2 properties set up?
This is the next step, step number 2, which we call consolidation, or it's really where you go out there and you slowly pay off the debt. So we've got 5 things that Simon and I personally do that have massively helped us or will help us in the future. The first one is the good old tried and tested principal and interest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you pay principal and interest on a 30-year bank loan, worst case, you'll own these properties outright in 30 years. But that is absolutely not what I want to personally do. And so I do a couple of other things as well.
What if I wanted to do it in, say, 20 years?
Sure. So what I would do to speed up the process would be then to use any extra or surplus income that comes in off the property. So let's just theoretically say that you've got a house and a granny flat worth 800K that rents for $900 a week. But 5 years from now, the rent's gone up by $300 a week. So all of a sudden you're getting $1,200 a week. And 5 years from now, the debt on the property is only $700K. There's this surplus amount of money that's being left over by both of these properties every single week. So instead of doing what 99% of Aussies do, which is just accidentally spend that money each week or deliberately, you could just, like what I do, is pay it all into one bank account. All of the expenses from the property come out of that bank account, and then anything that's left over at the end of a full year, straight off the debt on the properties. And that's a simple second thing that people can do.
So just delaying that gratification, not taking it today, just sacrificing that to pay down the debt to actually realise financial freedom sooner. Because if I don't, I'm going to have to continue working for many more years.
That's exactly it, bro. Now, with this sort of property, like in Australia at the moment, according to my accountant, I can get a tax depreciation report set up for the brand new granny flat. And if the house is relatively newish, I might be able to get a report for the house as well. And what I'll do is I'll get them prepared by a third-party company like Washington Brown or BMT, and then I'll give them to my accountant. And let's say that across the 2 houses and 2 granny flats, I get to save $5,000 or $10,000 a year for the first 10 years at tax time. I'll take that money and, again, instead of spending it, wipe it straight off the debts at the end of the year.
So similar to part 2 is just delaying that gratification, using any proceeds from that property portfolio to pay off the debt as quick as possible.
Exactly. And then if people want to be like a little bit more ambitious, what you could do is kick in $100 per week off each of the houses. So $200 a week in combined, which again is, $10,000 per year off the debt.
Well, when we're not intending to buy any more properties because we're in the consolidation phase, we're going to have that surplus savings every single week anyway. So rather than using it, just using that to pay off the debt and then once again, realising financial freedom sooner.
Exactly. And then the last thing that some people might want to do, I'm one of these people, is I've bought a couple of extra properties than just these base ones, and I plan on holding them for a 10, 15-year period. And then at some point in the future, when they've doubled in value, I'll sell them. And if I can sell a property that I bought for $500K for $1 million, pay the government a heap of tax, and then whatever's left over after I pay the government and the bank back, then I can use that chunk of cash to wipe off the remaining debt on these properties, which is my personal goal. A lot of our clients don't go for that extra property because they don't need to, but for me, it can just bring the process forward a bit.
I feel as though you're going to learn a lot throughout buying 2 investment properties and building 2 granny flats, and maybe from that you're a little bit more confident or have a little bit more of a risk appetite to look at adding that into the strategy as well, because capital growth, leverage is a very, very powerful tool to speed up that debt reduction phase. So that sort of, to me, sounds like the working smarter, not harder model.
100%. But, whether we've got clients that have absolutely gone for that third property that they'll sell in the future. We've got other people that we've worked with that are just so happy with the 2 houses and 2 granny flats, and they're using those first 4 ideas to slowly pay off the debt.
So just saying, for this example for me and Tay, let's say we do P&I, we do the extra income, we use the tax benefits, plus we just go for the $100 per week per property. Hypothetically, let's say it takes us 15 years to reduce that debt to 0. What happens after we've reduced the debt to 0?
I love that, man. Like, step 3 of this concept, which is the 2 properties, the financial freedom strategy, is really just choices or freedom. And that is really when you and Tay have a good level of assets plus a passive income stream for life. And that's when the fun can continue, right? It's like when time to do what you want to do, to contribute to the world in a more meaningful way, to spend more time with people you care about, to travel, to surf more, to train more, to spend more time with your family. Like, it's really that point where you no longer have to worry about money on a survival basis because you've got enough. And what's important here is if you hold the 2 properties in the 2 granny flats, which are worth 1.6 mil today, for 15 years, and they increase by 4.8% per year, it means you're going to be sitting on $3.2 million worth of property, hopefully owned debt-free. And the rent, which was $90,000 today from the 2 houses and 2 granny flats, if that grows by 2.5% per year, which historically speaking rents have done, then you're sitting on $130,000 per year of rent. So
Wow.
this really exceeds your goal. Like you may not even have to buy properties that are this expensive to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, it's pretty insane to look at those numbers because, you know, a lot of people think that they need to buy 5 plus maybe 10 properties to actually become financially free. But 2 properties, 2 $600,000 properties, you know, that seems extremely manageable for the average person.
Completely. And I think what's most exciting about this is regardless of where you're starting, this could be an idea or a plan that you slowly put in place either on your own, with your partner or with your family. And instead of doing what I did when I was starting, which is just blindly buying and hoping that the properties that I was buying would get me there, and then realizing, hey, I could have probably got there somewhere a lot sooner. It gives you a framework or a way to invest moving forward without that pressure of not knowing where you're going as you're physically driving there.
Yeah, it seems like a really simple idea and reality, the path of least resistance.
For sure. So for those of you who like this idea, we'd love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. All you have to do is jump over to the website, www.pumpedonproperty.com, and we can talk about where you are today, where you'd like to be longer term. We can give you an update on this market at the moment, and then you can take that with a grain of salt and go and smash it on your own, or you can become one of the small number of clients that we work with each year. Either way, we absolutely wish you all the best on your journey to financial freedom. This is such a simple strategy, as you've talked about, that most of us can slowly implement over the next 10 to 15 years. And I'm so grateful I found this because I know it's going to make a massive impact. I wish I had have stumbled on it earlier personally, but I'm excited to be explaining it to you guys now.